Well, I recently did a video on the new landscape masking feature inside of both versions of Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw. It occurred to me, I just noticed that a lot of people were almost sleeping on the new change, not totally seeing some of the value in it, especially if you shoot other genres of photography. So my excitement is genuine because it started from the fact that I saw these and I thought, all right, that's a cool concept. I started using them, like, nah, it's kind of cool. And then after spending some serious time with them, it has changed every aspect of my editing. My whole editing is built around directing people's attention to parts of the photo. And these masks do that for any photograph that I take that's outside, whether it's wildlife, whether it's a car, whether it's a city or a landscape. So I wanted to show you a bunch of different examples inside here on what you can do with that. Also, as we get started here, check the link in the description. The masks that you generate, there could be up to 7 of them. There is, as of now, there is no generate all masks button, so it's a little cumbersome. I basically created a button for you. It's in the form of a free preset, so you can get that for free in the link below, but let's go ahead and get started. We will start off here with a wedding portrait. So any portrait photographers out there, we'll head over to our masking tools. And there's a couple of different ways that you can go with this. Some people use presets for creativity ideas. Some people use them for speed. It's my scene split presets here. So you can see I've got some trees. So we'll go with the trees. We'll just kind of click through and you can see that'll give us some starting points with the trees there. Otherwise, we can just head over here to the landscape section and you can see it'll generate the sky, the vegetation. There is water back there. It's actually right back there, but there's just not a lot of it. The water and then artificial ground. So we'll create those masks. I found in this one, the water is so small and the artificial ground almost kind of merge with each other. So those aren't going to be extremely useful. And I think that would be the first thing in setting your expectations is every one of them is not going to be perfect, but if you're a portrait photographer, being able to select the trees and the flowers and everything would be pretty useful. Now, we can also make this one better by going to that vegetation mask that we have here, subtracting select sky, and that'll make the sky better. And then we could also subtract the select portrait option because you can see around the hair and everything. If I zoom in a little bit there, not perfect. So let's go subtract select subject. And you can see that makes the entire selection around the people better. And now that we have access to all those trees and flowers, now if we wanted to, make them brighter, make them a little bit more contrasty, maybe warm them up a little bit, add a little bit of saturation, take away saturation, adjust the color, whatever you want. You've got a whole section in point color where I could target a very specific color. I could even go to some of the purples in there and really boost the saturation of very specific colors inside the photo, inside of that mask. That's where this stuff gets really powerful. And then again, the thing that I keep talking about with this, because I think that's what's so important, is you can't get blinders on, because just because we generated landscape masks, we're not done, right? We can go create masks, we can select subject, and now we can work on the people. We can go create masks and we can go down to the select people option, and it's going to select both of the portraits in the photo. So we can really continue on down this path. All we've really done here is just give ourselves more access to different parts of the photo to edit quickly. Okay, we still get to do the editing. It just keeps us from the grunt work of having to do all of that masking. Well, as you can see, I'm pretty excited by this stuff. I can't go throwing around biggest update ever, so we'll go pretty close to that. The masking panel that came out 4 years ago, I think that was the biggest update ever, but this is really, really close, and it's for everybody. Anybody that shoots outdoors can take advantage of this stuff. You're going to see as we go along, there's up to 7 different segments. Before we dive into some other examples, take a look below. There's a link down there. You're going to see as we generate these segments in the mask, it can be a little bit cumbersome, always having to click the check boxes. There's a little freebie that is just going to save you a little bit of time and sanity with that. Number 2, I developed a little preset and mini course. It's called Scene Split AI Presets and Mini Course. And I did this to give you a head start, give you a boost. It is extremely affordable for what you get. It is very, very affordable, very easy and quick to get through, but it will take what I think is going to be a major shift and change to your editing. And I think it will take that and make that whole process a lot faster. So feel free to check that out as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's go into Photoshop for one, just to show you what it would look like inside of Adobe Camera Raw. So I'll go filter. Again, if you opened up a raw photo in Camera Raw or whether you go into the filter, it's the same thing. The masking tools work the same. So we'll go over here and we'll generate the landscape masks. And this one's pretty useful because it gives me the vegetation, which is pretty much the ground there, and then the water. And those are two things I could never really get that easily if you think about it, right? I could create a mask of the subjects, okay, and that would give me that, but I can't invert that mask and get just the water or just the rocks or the vegetation, right? You can invert a mask. It's very easy to just come up here and go and invert a mask, so you get everything but the subjects. But in this case, if you want to edit the water separately, which I'd want to go in here, probably go down to the color section, maybe add some saturation to it, maybe make it a little bit more blue, something along those lines there. I could go to the vegetation. I'd probably go down into effects, add some texture to that. Texture and clarity will just make that look a little bit sharper. You can make it brighter, make it darker. And then of course you have your subject masks, so you could continue on and do whatever you wanted to in there as well. All right, let's cancel out of that one. We'll do one more while we're inside of Photoshop, and then we'll jump back and take more examples in Lightroom. Again, filter, if you opened up a raw photo, it'd show up in Camera Raw. Go to our masking tools, go to landscapes, and you like to shoot cars, whatever. You got the sky, you got the mountains, and you got artificial ground. Artificial ground's not perfect. I'll go ahead and select it and just show you what I would do here, which would be add to it with select objects, and then just take that brush and then just paint in that area down there. Should do pretty good. Missed a little spot there. And then just paint in right over there. And select objects should get us most of the way to get the selection of that road there. Moving on, let's jump back over into Lightroom. Let's take a look at a cityscape. How's that? And I don't think most of us would argue that cityscapes would fall into landscapes, but just to show you, we'll go over here to the landscape section. I think this is where at first glance you would think maybe it wouldn't select the things you want, but it does. It selects the architecture. Okay, not too difficult because there's just architecture and sky here, but imagine you had more things in the photo. So now you've got an architecture selection. And then what I would do with this, especially like a twilight photo like this, I'm going to always boost the whites. I'm going to boost the highlights quite a bit. And then I'd probably even intersect this. What we can do is hold down the Option or Alt key inside of Lightroom, and that brings up intersect. I think it's the Shift key inside of Camera Raw. Either way, you can always click the pop-out menu and intersect as well. I could intersect this with a luminance range. Inside of luminance range, I could then go take that eyedropper and drop it over the bright lights like that. Now I've got a really refined selection here of just the lights. Now I can get aggressive, probably not that aggressive, but now I can get pretty aggressive maybe with whites and with highlights. I can get aggressive knowing that I've got a selection mostly of the lights in the photo. That's what I wanted to make appear a little bit better, was just the lights that are in the buildings there. So when you look before and after, it really does, it turns those lights on. And we could probably use some creative subtraction of masking to maybe tone that building down a little bit and really get access to just essentially turning the lights on a little bit more. All right, let's take a look at a sports example here. So same idea, go in here to our landscape presets. And we've got sky, so we can grab sky, we've got vegetation, and we've got natural ground. We can create that mask. We can also add to it and make sure we get the subject inside of here, so it's going to do a good job on that. So maybe we make our subject brighter. I think the sky looks pretty good. The vegetation looks good. Looks like it does kind of bleed over into the sky, so I would go to subtract, select sky. All right, and that'll make those edges a little bit better. And again, now I can make that a little bit brighter. Also notice the vegetation grabs the ground, but we also have a natural ground selection. I probably wouldn't want to edit these together. So that's where I would go to subtract, come down to select landscape, and then choose ground. So essentially you're subtracting the ground mask from the vegetation mask. So now what am I left with? Now I'm just left with the trees that are in the background there, so I can edit those. And then I can go down here to natural ground, maybe make that a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated, whatever you want to do with it. And then I'm going to go back to, we'll finish up here. I'm going to go back to the portrait really quick because I want to show you, I had mentioned, you know, I've got, of course, the scene split presets that I told you about. However, there's plenty of other presets. Adobe comes with portrait presets, adaptive portrait presets. So you could start to mix and match these, right? You can kind of hover over and you can see what some of the things that it's going to do to the portraits in the photo. There we go. So polished portrait, gritty, probably not good for weddings, smooth facial skin, enhance eyes. They're all really, really small if it's going to work on the eyes, so it's going to be a little bit different. Let's do this textured hair. So I'll just click on textured hair just so you can see what it does. It adds the hair mask inside of there. So it's not, once you start using these presets, if you're somebody that does want to work a little faster or uses them because they just give you some creative ideas, we can go in here and we can, add all masks to these are some of my portrait presets, but can add all the masks to it. And that way I've got all those masks to edit the hair, the eyes, the teeth, all that stuff. So it really fits into everybody's workflow, whether you're all presets, whether you're all manual masking and editing, whether you're hybrid in between, there's really nothing that you can't do with all these tools that we have now. So also while you're here, if you haven't seen the new updates to Photoshop recently, some of them are similar to what we have here, but also there are some other updates in there. I've got a video that covers all that, so that's a great place to go to next.